Yu-Gi-Oh! An incredibly complex card game with tens of thousands of cards. However, what if each set was separated from the rest of the massive card pool and your choices when building a deck were extremely limited? In this series, in order to learn Yu-Gi-Oh! From the ground up, I will be embarking on an adventure through the history of the card game with Jeexx. In each episode, we will have access to all the cards in a select product, and using only the cards in that product, both of us will build a deck before playing a best of 3 match to determine the winner of the episode. We will move in a chronological order in the series, and with each new episode we will forget the cards of the past in order to experience something brand new. We hope you enjoyed this adventure through Yu-Gi-Oh! And its evolution with us. Welcome to the historic Yu-Gi-Oh! Learning journey. Master of Pendulum structure deck was released at the end of 2015 and Pendulum Domination released at the start of 2017, but what both of these structure decks share is their theming around Pendulum monsters. Master of Pendulum focus on the more generic Pendulum support and some archetypes like Magicians, Odd Eyes, and Performer Pal, and Pendulum Domination focused on the relatively new DD archetype. Guys and girls, welcome back to the Historic Yu-Gi-Oh! Learning journey, and we are back with another structure deck episode, this time Master of Pendulum and Pendulum Domination. And I think a lot of these cards we've seen at this point already, so hopefully this shouldn't take too long. And I'll be honest, just a word of warning, I think this is going to be one of the most boring episodes we've had in a long while. Because I'm deadass, there is nothing interesting in this deck. And kind of courtesy of like these decks being a little over a year apart, like I feel like also the power level between this and the DDD deck is like this. And in addition to all of that stuff, this deck obviously needs scales to function, and Beowulf can just pop scales, so it's gonna be painful. But let's see what we're working with first. First, we have 2 vanillas that we are only using as scales, Dragon Pulse Magician and Dragon Pit Magician, a 1 scale and an 8 scale. And once per turn, if you have a Magician card in your other Pendulum zone for Dragon Pit, you can discard a Pendulum monster to pop a spell trap on the field, and for Dragon Pulse you can pop a face-up monster, but the discard needs to specifically be Pendulum monsters. Then we have Noble Dragon Magician, which just has a, unless you have a Magician card in your other Pendulums, and destroy this card, which doesn't really matter as a scale. More likely we're using this for its actual monster effect, since it's a level 3 tuner, and can only be used as synchro summon for a dragon synchro monster. And if it's used as synchro material, unless all other synchro materials are Odd Eyes monsters, you place this card on the bottom of the deck. And then finally, if this card is in your hand or graveyard, you can target a level 7 or higher Odd Eyes monster you control, reduce the level by 3, and special summon this card. Basically, unless you have an Odd Eyes, this doesn't do anything, and unfortunately for the structure deck, the only Odd Eyes card we have in the main deck is Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon. So it can extend with stuff like Meteor Burst once you summon it back, like you have a couple Pendulum Dragons, you target Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon, you summon out Magician, use those two to go into Odd Eyes Meteor Burst Dragon, and then like you get it back to lower the level of the Meteor Burst Dragon, and maybe summon out another Odd Eyes Pendulum somehow, and may actually no, that wouldn't even work because it needs to be in your graveyard, and the extra deck doesn't work. This deck is even worse than I thought. Holy shit. Moving on. Time Gazer Magician, another 8 scale, since apart from Dragon Pit, we don't really have good 8 scales because we don't want to be scaling Skull Crobat. You must control no monster to activate this card. If a Pendulum monster you control battles, your opponent cannot activate trap cards until the end of the damage step, and then unless you have a Magician or a Dice in the other Pendulum zone, the scale becomes 4. The monster effect doesn't matter, we're always scaling this, hopefully. Perform Wild Trump Witch. Once per day you can fusion summon a fusion monster from your extra deck using monster you control as fusion materials. Or you can tribute this on the board to add a Polymerization from your deck or graveyard to your hand, which we are running only one of because the fusion is terrible. 3 Skull Crobat Joker just fetches us everything on normal summon. You know what Skull Crobat does. Pendulum Dragon does piercing as the monster effect, but most importantly it's an Odd Eyes name. That's a level 7. And the Pendulum effect, you can reduce the battle damage you take from an attack involving a Pendulum monster you control to 0. And during your end phase, you can destroy this card in the Pendulum scale if you do add a Pendulum monster with 1500 or less attack from your deck to your hand. and both effects are once per turns, but mostly it's there because of the name and the levels, and we need it for all of our extra deck plays. To have access to other level 7s as well, we have Chaos Hunter. When your opponent spell summons monster, you can discard one card to spell summon this card from your hand, and then it's a Floodgate effect, which we don't really care about. Fusilier Dragon can be normal summoned without attributing, but its original attack and defense become halved, but we only care about the levels, so it's still fine. When running one off, we have 2 more in the side if we need it though. Then we have Lila to pop spell traps. Only 1 though, we are running 2 more in the side, but I don't want to go too hard on the too many monsters here, and especially when like we have no way of using these level 4s for extra deck plays, but still like obviously basically all of the DD stuff being continuous spells on taps, like Lila is pretty good for that. Triple Sky Iris, your opponent can target Magician Power from all that's cards in your Pendulum Zone with card effects, very important for us because we don't have that much access to scales, so being able to protect them is pretty nice. And then you can target a face-up card you control, destroy it, and if you do, add a Odd-Eyes card from your deck to your hand, which is also very important because, like I said, Noble Dragon, which alongside Odd-Eyes Pendulum, like it needs specifically Odd-Eyes Pendulum Dragon to do anything, and those are the only things in this deck that are even like somewhat powerful of a play, so we need as much access to Odd-Eyes Pendulum Dragon as possible. Pendulum Call, discard 1 card to add 2 Magician Pendulum monster with different names for your deck to your hand until the end of your opponent's next turn. After this card resolves, it also protects Magician cards in your Pendulum Zones from being destroyed by card effects, and then you can only activate 1 per turn, and you cannot activate this card if you activate a Magician monster's Pendulum effect this turn. But you cannot activate if you activated, so basically it's just you use this first, and then you can use those. But basically this is just like, if we have this turn 1, then we can get Time Gazer and Dragon Balls. And if we have this later, then we just grab the Dragon Pet and Dragon Pulse. Forbidden Dress, at 2 copies, target face monster on the field until the end of this turn. The target loses 600 attack, but cannot be targeted or destroyed by other card effects. Pretty flexible card, can protect stuff from being destroyed, but also the problem here, apart from our terrible fusion, which we don't want to go into, Beowulf is 3k, and neither of our extra deck monsters can deal with it. So the 600 can actually matter here, because it lets us to our 2 main things that we actually want to go into in our extra deck beat over it. A single Polymerization if we want to go for the terrible fusion monster, which it basically just says that if it was time to use your Pendulum summoned monster on the field of fusion materials, it's not affected by your opponent's card effects this turn, and then depending on the original level of the monster used as fusion material that was not the Odd-Eyes Pendulum Dragon, you get either 2 attacks on monsters or 3 attacks on monsters, depending on if it's a low or high level. I don't know why I explained that already, but I mean, I guess that's fine. Card is terrible though. Triple MST, once again, like a lot of stuff in the contracts that DDs want to play. Triple Torrential Tribute, because our deck is bad and his deck is not bad, so we need to usually blob way more stuff that he can put on the board than we can. Temperature Trap Hole Nightmare, just to actually have a way to deal with stuff apart from pitching for Dragon Pulse. The issue here, like if this was discard a card and not discard a Pendulum monster, it would be fine, but the fact that it's specifically Pendulum monster is what makes it pretty bad. Our extra side deck is just extra copies of stuff. Our Fiend, and then like Archfiend Leader of Nefariousness is an easy extra body, but like I said, like we can't really do anything with Force, so that's why we don't really care about. The same thing with Goblinberg. It just gives us a 3-level, 2-level 4 bodies, but once again, no extra deck plays to be made with them, so they don't really matter. Triple Scapegoat if we need to really tank up, but the issue is that once again, the same name that we mentioned in Beowulf does piercing with 3k, so these can't even help against that. And then just the extra copies. As for the 2 not terrible extra deck cards, we have Odd-Eyes Meteor Burst Dragon, which is the most likely one that we will get to, with Pendulum Dragon and Noble Dragon Magician. When it's special summoned, you can target a card in your Pendulum Zone, spell summon it, and this card can attack for the rest of the turn. And then this is a once per turn, and then your opponent can activate a monster race during the battle phase when Meteor Burst is on the field. It's mostly like you have a Pendulum Dragon scaled, and you have another one on the board. You summon Noble Dragon and use the Pendulum Dragon on the board. Summon this, then you get to summon this thing out, and then you can summon out Noble Dragon using targeting either the Pendulum Dragon or the Meteor Burst, and then you can make another one, maybe extend some way that way, and then you actually know it's a hard. Anytime I think this deck has like even some place to like, okay, you can go this into Void Absolute, sorry, it doesn't even matter. This deck is just terrible. Yeah, Absolute Dragon, generic, rank 7, monster declares an attack, you need this one to negate the attack and spell summon an as monster from your hand or graveyard. If this exit summoned card is sent to a graveyard, you can spell summon an as monster from your extra deck, except Absolute Dragon. It's the one good card in the deck. But yeah, that's gonna be it. Sorry for my tone here. Like I said, like I just think this deck is so beyond horrible. There's like, it just feels like a pile of garbage that you just put together and just call it a structure deck. And especially because we're playing these two against each other, like it's gonna be a blowout. Like I feel like this might be the biggest mismatch we've had thus far, and I'm just hoping that the games don't reflect that. Maybe there's something there, but we'll see. But yeah, that's gonna do it for my deck breakdown. Enjoy Jeexx, and afterwards I'll see you in the duel zone.
Okay, so we're doing Pendulum Domination versus Master of Pendulum. It's gonna be Yuya's deck versus Reiji's deck. Yeah, it's Reiji, not Yuji. It's Reiji. Yeah. And as you can see, I'm playing Reiji's deck. I'm playing Pendulum Domination. We got DDDs in here. Unfortunately, these are not going to be like full power DDDs, mostly because the fact that you're missing a lot of extra deck cards that would be really useful, such as Gengish, which is already out, but it's not out for the structure deck, because back when the structure deck came out in the OCG, Gengish was not out in the OCG, if I am not misremembering. Let me just see. This is the wrong version of Gengish. You know what? Gengish DDD. Can I find it if I do that? Yes, I can find that. There we go. And then Pendulum Domination. I'm interested in just finding out the actual dates for this stuff before I go yapping too hard. But yeah, for the most part, this deck it has a lot of really strong cards still in there, like Kepler as a searcher, Lamia as a tuner, a fairly versatile reusable tuner that can also set up your board and stuff. You also have 1-for-1s, you have Gate, you have Swamp King, obviously. You also have the other Swamp King. Yeah, you have like Forbidden Contract and Dark Contract. Yeah. And then you have like some stuff like Dark Contract with Yami Makai, which you never really use for anything. It's mostly here because I like didn't want to play a third copy of Swamp King, and I figured, oh, this can at least like have a use. Because drawing into a second copy of Swamp King sucks ass, but drawing into a different card entirely can still have uses. But yeah. Let me double check this. So the structure deck in JP came out, and OCG came out in December 2015, and yeah. No, this is not. Fuck. No, my dates are wrong right now. Because this fucking card is a pain in the ass to search for. Whatever. I'm yapping too much. Anyhow, we have Lamia in here. Lamia has the effect of if this card is in your hand or graveyard, you can send one DDD or Dark Contract card from your hand or face up on the field of the graveyard, except DD Lamia, and special summon this card, but banish it when it leaves the field. You can only use this effect of Lamia once per turn. It's a level 1 tuner with a reusable effect. Just to point out that this card has been banned before. Like, sure, it's really easy to summon, right? You can send a card from your hand to the graveyard and special summon when it's in your graveyard. Essentially the same thing, right? It allows you to set up your graveyard pretty easily. It also allows you to have a reusable tuner for synchro climbing from like this guy, Gengish, who is like the de facto summon, the fusion summon that you have, which is a level 6, and that allows you to climb into Alexander, which then allows you to climb into like Siegfried, for example, or if you're using like Formula Synchron, you can use Lamia and Kepler to make a Formula Synchron. You can draw a card, and then you can make a Gengish directly into Siegfried by skipping the Alexander, and so on and so forth. It's pretty good. It's overall a really solid card. It's like the backbone of this deck to a degree, especially the Synchro variant. Then you have DD Lilith, which is in here mostly as filler. It's a level 4. This card is normal spell summon. You can activate one of these effects, and the effects are target one DD monster in your graveyard and add it to your hand, which is pretty good. Like recursion in this deck is pretty good. Add one face-up DD Pendulum monster from your extra deck to your hand, which is also pretty good because it can allow you to set up your scales, or it can allow you to do things with, for example, what's his face? Chaos King Apocalypse, which allows you to summon it, or you can even get like Ragnarok back to your hand, summon Ragnarok, summon Lamia from the graveyard, Ragnarok effects, summon another card from the graveyard, and then go from there to climb into, for example, Siegfried or Wave King Kaisar. Night Howl, when this card is null summon, you can target one DD monster in your graveyard and spell summon it. And also, you cannot spell summon a monster for the rest of this turn except feed type monsters. That monster's attack and defense become 0, and if it is destroyed, take 1000 damage. That is in here. DD Cerberus. It's a level 4, 6 scale. Changes level and gives attack to a DD monster. And if it's special summon from your hand, while you control another DD monster other than DD Cerberus, you can target one continuous spell card in your graveyard and add it to your hand. Recursion, again, not too bad. Orthros, once per turn, you can target one spell trap on the field and one other DD card you uncontract you control, destroy them. When you take battle or effect damage, you can spell summon this card from your hand. If this card is spell summoned to your side of the field, you can spell summon a monster for the rest of this turn, except team type monsters. Again, level 4, 3 scale. It's not too bad. It's fairly good for like making Caesar plays, and also the popping effects can be pretty handy at some point, and also it can call itself back, summon itself onto the field fairly easily. Copernicus, the scale effect doesn't really matter. It allows you to negate a spell effect, essentially, and it's a 1 scale. Level 4, if this card is normal or special summon, you can send a DD or Dark Contract card, except DD Copernicus, to the graveyard. And you can only use this effect of Copernicus once per turn. It's pretty good. It's one of those cards, again, that I think is really good for the deck overall. Galilei has the effect of... I'm just not going to bother reading this. It essentially says, if the level of monsters on your board is lower than this card's Pendulum scale, destroy all of them. Or destroy the monsters that have lower level than this card's scale. It has level 1, but it increases every standby phase. During either player's turn, you can discard this card and then target one DD or Dark Contact card in your you control and return to your hand. So essentially what I'm thinking is that you can use this card, you can discard this card to then bounce like Gate to your hand if your opponent's trying to pop it, or even if like your opponent's trying to kill something else on your board, you can discard this to bounce back to your hand. For example, stuff like Lilith, that can be fairly useful. For Kepler, that might be fairly useful. And as I said, the contracts themselves can be pretty good for them. Kepler has the effect that when it's normal spell summon, you can add a DD card on your board. You can bounce a DD card you control to your hand, or you can add a Dark Contract from your deck to your hand. Just saying. I can't think of a situation where I have ever used the bounce effect, so Kepler searches a Dark Contract on something. Chaos King Apocalypse, when it's in your Pendulum Zone, you can banish 2 DD monsters from your graveyard and spell summon this card from your Pendulum Zone. During your opponent's turn, if this card is in your hand or graveyard, you can target 2 face spell or trap cards you control and destroy them. And you can spell summon most of the fiend types this turn, blah, 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 and then you can spell summon this card. Whatever. It summons itself. It's a level 7. It's 2.7 thousand attack. It can be kind of okay. Ragnarok. Finally, a card that has a genuinely relevant pendulum effect for this deck. If you special summon a DD monster, except during the damage step, you can target one DD monster in your graveyard. Any battle damage your opponent takes becomes halved for the rest of this turn. Also, special summon that monster. And if you do, take 1000 damage. Really strong effect. Allows you to essentially extend into making more plays for synchros, more plays for fusions, more plays for XYZs. It's mostly not relevant for this deck, mostly because, like, again, we don't have decent cards for this. We have, like, Siegfried in here, but even going for Siegfried is kind of it's kind of unlikely because our only tuners are like a level 1 and a level 3, and we don't really have good ways of going into level 8s with these two. But yeah, really good card. The actual monster effect is, if this card is normal spell summon, you can target a DDD monster in your graveyard and spell summon it. And you contribute a other DD monster you control, and then target one monster your opponent controls, and banish it. Allure Darkness, draw 2, banish Dark. All of these are Darks. Dark Contact with the Gate. During your main phase, you can add a DD monster from deck to your hand, and you can only use this once per turn. And once per turn during your standby phase, take 1000 damage. Dark Contact with the Swamp King. During your main phase, you can fusion one Fiend Fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters you control, monster from your hand or field as material, and you can also banish monsters from your graveyard as material for this card effect. Or Fusion Summon. Once per turn during your standby phase, you can take a 1000 damage. Dark Contact with the Yamimakai. Once per turn, take 1000 damage again. During your main phase, you can target one DD Pendulum monster in graveyard and place it in your Pendulum Zone. During your main phase, you can place one face of DD Pendulum monster from your extra deck in your Pendulum Zone. Again, I don't think this card is particularly good, but I think in this closed format, if it goes awry, being able to play this and place either Chaos King Apocalypse or even like Ragnarok into your scale and then use their effects can be really pivotal and can actually win you games in this. Foolish Burial. Forbidding Dark Contract with the Swamp King. Spell summon a DDD monster from your hand in defense position, but its effects are negated. So essentially, summon Chaos King Apocalypse or Oblivion King. Abyss Ragnarok. And then once per turn, you can fusion summon fiend type monsters, fusion monsters from your extra deck using cards from your hand or field as fusion materials. And then you can take 1,000 damage, 2,000 damage during your standby phase. 2 1-for-1s, Contract Laundering, destroy as many Dark Contract cards in your spell trap zone as possible. And if you do, draw the same number of cards, destroy it, and then you gain 1,000 life points for each card you do with this effect. Dark Contract with the Witch, send a DD card or a Dark Contract card from your hand to the graveyard, then target one card on the field, destroy it, and then all fiend type monsters you control gain 1,000 attack during your opponent's turn only. And then 8 escape from the Dark Dimension. I'll probably normally be running like DDR instead of this if you had the option, but this is gonna do. This is fun. This works. I'm gonna get a knight. Cerberus, Orthros, Galilei, Newton. Again, it's another one of these Savant cards. If your opponent activates a trap card while this is in your scale, that would inflict damage to you. You can destroy that. You can discard this card and target one DD card or Dark Contract card in the graveyard and add it to your hand. Essentially the same as Galilei, but it has recursion. I deemed Galilei to be better solely due to the fact that this is a quick effect that I can use for protection, whereas this is just a pure recursion effect. Another Chaos King Apocalypse, Emergency Provisions, because they're continuous spells and traps. I can send them to the graveyard. I can gain life points, even when like they're about to burn me and stuff. It's not bad, not bad. Foolish Burial, another contract, more and more. Hope for Escape. If your opponent's LP is at least 1,000 higher than yours, pay 1,000 life points. Draw one card for every 2,000 points difference between your LP and your opponent's. Dude, this card is not gonna play any kind of role in this. But if it does, holy shit, that'll be sick. Then we have Beowulf. Then we have the X-Rect. We have Beowulf, requires a DDD and a DD monster. If a DD monster attacks a defense monster, inflict piercing damage. Once per turn, you can stand by phase, you can destroy all spell traps. Siegfried, one or more non-tuner DD monsters. During either player's turn, you can target one face-up spell trap card on the field, and that target has its effects negated until the next standby phase. And then, if this card is destroyed by battle card effect and sent to the graveyard, gain 1,000 life points for each Dark Contract card you control. Wave King Kaisar, 2 level 4 fiend type monsters. During either player's turn, you can detach one XYZ material from this card at the end of the battle phase. Special summon from your graveyard as many monsters as were destroyed this turn as possible. But during the next standby phase, take 1,000 damage for each monster special summoned by this effect. If this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can add one Dark Contract card from your deck to your hand. You can only use each effect of DDD Wave King Kaisar once per turn. So, the way that this works is like, you activate this at the end of the battle phase, you then spell summon as many cards that were destroyed this turn as possible. Which like specifically says this turn, not during the battle phase. So if your cards would be popped anywhere outside of this, like the battle phase as well, they will count. You will get this effect to go off. And then obviously if it dies as well, you get to return you get a Dark Contract to your hand. It's pretty good. It's a solid card like for walling your opponent, I guess you could say. But yeah, that about does it. I think this is overall a really good deck. This is like one of my favorite decks in the entire game. So, you know, we shall see how this goes. Anyhow, good luck with the games.
Ladies and lads, welcome back to History Kikyo Learning Journey. We are back with another structure deck episode with Master of Pendulum and Pendulum Domination. I think last time I said Pendulum Dominance, but that is not correct. It is Pendulum Domination. And, yeah, and if we're playing a fucking Pendulum deck, yippee. But, Jeexx, how are you feeling today? Because I think DDD is at least something that you've thought of at some point. Oh, this.
I literally played this deck for like 2 years. I'm gonna set, pass. You have the associates, guys, the spreadsheets, you know,
Swag. Well, this certainly is one of the hands of all time. Go. I did 3 test hands this time. 2 of them were good and 1 was a dud, and I guess this is another dud. Oh my god, we can play the fucking... Actually, wait, does that do anything? I mean, I guess. I'll be real, I didn't even... That's actually one thing that I'm now realizing, which is... Oh, did you by the way realize that the Yu-Gi-Oh database website, like, they should change completely?
Mm-hmm.
It looks so weird now.
Theme.
And it feels weird. Anyways, I'm realizing that I have not even looked at the Pendulum Domination, because usually, like, I try to build both a little bit to just be like, all right, what the fuck is in here? But I have not even looked, and there are too many draft cards. It's whatever. I don't fucking care. What does this even say? Oh, fuck me sideways. I guess... Can I? Actually, no. I can't even do that. Nope. Well then. And that shit's chalked as well. I guess... Oh, God, I fucking hate this. I guess I'll scale this so I don't have to discard that. Pass it back to you.
Stand by main. I am going to set a scale. I will be setting on the left. This is the wrong card.
Mm-hmm.
On the left, Oblivion King Abyss Ragnarok. I would like to activate Dark Contract with the Swamp King. Normal summon Savant Copernicus, activating Copernicus effect to mill a DD card to my graveyard.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to mill... let me double check. Yeah, the request special summoning. Yeah. I would like to mill a Savant Kepler. Then I would like to use from my field and my hand a card for fusion material. I would like to use this Lilith and this DD Chaos King Apocalypse to summon out a Dragonbane. Then I would like to activate the effect of Oblivion King Abyss Ragnarok to special summon out a card from my graveyard. Now the question is, would I like to summon out the Chaos King Apocalypse or the Kepler? I would personally choose the Kepler normally here, because then I could actually use it for plays, because I can search stuff from my board, from my deck. But unfortunately, you know how it is. Well, I guess I'll just summon out Lilith in defense. I take 1,000 damage here, and take half damage for the rest of this turn.
Mm-hmm.
Then I would like to activate the effect of Lilith to add a DD monster from my graveyard to my hand. And I would like to add, in this case, Kepler. Is this worth? It's kind of worth. I think that's fine. I will add Chaos King Apocalypse instead. I cannot normal summon anyway, so it's whatever. Then I would like to overlay my Lilith and my Copernicus to summon out a Wave King Kaisar. And now I would like to attack for 1.2 and 1.5. And that is it.
Yep. It looks like that at least we're gonna get out of here fast. I do the one-off break and absolutely fucking nothing to do anything with. Which is awesome. We'll go side for game 2. And it's looking like it's gonna be a fast one, which honestly, playing a Pendulum deck, I guess I wouldn't mind, but I would hope to at least get to play the video game. I mean, at least we can do more this time because I got the Joker. Now the question is, there nothing here does anything, so I guess we'll grab this Dragon Pulse Magician and we will set 2 cards and we will pass on that.
I shall go standby main. I would like to activate 1 for 1, discarding Savant Kepler to special summon out from my deck a Savant Kepler, and I would like to activate the effect of Savant Kepler. Would you like to negate the effect of Savant Kepler?
No, you're good.
I will be adding to my hand a Dark Contract from my deck. I will be adding the Dark Contract of the Swamp King. Then I would like to activate Dark Contract with the Gate to add to my hand a DD monster from my deck. Is this okay?
That is fine.
I would like to add to my hand I can add this guy. That would be kind of funny. Why not? I would like to add. That's in graveyard though. Not too bad.
Swamp.
I will add ED Night Howl. Then I would like to activate the effect of 1 for 1, discarding my Savant Copernicus to special summon out another level 1 monster from my deck. I will summon out Lamium. Then I would like to normal summon DD Night Howl, activating the effect of DD Night Howl to special summon DD monster from my graveyard. And I can also summon other cards for the rest of this turn other than Naveen monsters. I will summon out Savant Copernicus, activating the effect of Savant Copernicus.
What does this thing do? I think here is where I would like the Torrential.
Okay. And then I will send everything to the... Oh, that's not right. It doesn't send them automatically. When I summon Copernicus, right?
Yep.
Yep. So I will also get a mill when it hits.
Okay. So my issue here is that because of pendulums. Okay, which one of these is top of? Is this hand? I literally... Okay, so I don't know how to put
top of extra deck FU.
Yeah, but well, I can show you what this looks like for me. So can you see them clearly? How many is that from the top?
I just click the lowest one and then it'll be back on board. I don't know why it's even doing that. It shouldn't be doing that. It should be like extending like.
Yeah, this is it extends on the board, but it's every time I have another reason to dislike pendulums. Anytime they go to the grave, it always does that for me in the grave.
I'm wondering, do you have hardware acceleration enabled or something?
I do not.
It could be a case of hardware acceleration being required for it to move the thing down. Normally, it should extend, and if it can't extend properly, it shifts down.
Let me check. I mean, I would have to restart, so I'm not going to do that anyway now. But let me check. Actually, wait, no, I should have because I know it for other things.
I would like to
yes, I do
finish the effect of Copernicus here, by the way.
Yep.
I will be sending to my graveyard a DD monster with the effect of Copernicus. Oh, so if it's destroyed, I take 1,000 damage. Yeah, I take 1,000 damage here because of the Night Owl effect.
Oh, you're right. I didn't realize.
I will send to the graveyard Oblivion King Abyss Ragnarok. Then I would like to activate Dark Contract with the Swamp King to banish from my graveyard the Night Howl and the DD Oblivion King blah 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 in summoning out my Dragonbane King Beowulf. And then I would like to go to combat and swing for 3,000.
Sure. And I think that's GG.
Pass.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's just gonna be GG's. Because there is nothing in this deck that deals with Beowulf once it hits the board. We can scale
Wait, you can just kill it with Dragon Pulse. Can't you?
I guess. Oh yeah, it's face up. I don't know why I thought.
Like these two cards that you have here are literally like the best thing in your deck, arguably.
Yeah, the only thing that does anything in the deck, I guess. It needs to be this, because otherwise, there's always banish. This is only for monsters. God, I hate having either of these, but actually, wait. Yeah, never mind. This works.
If you pop
I will
one of the
pitch.
contracts, I can just add Kepler and get the other one back. If you don't pop okay.
I will use the effect of, actually no. Yeah, never mind. It's discard a Pendulum monster. Never mind. Even these cards are bad.
That's like why Pendulum Call is really the only good way of using these.
Yeah, it's not like I have 3 of them in my deck. I mean, I'm taking hella damage here, but I still need to do this. I'll summon Lila. I'll use the effect of Lila. And I'll also chain MST, so we'll just get rid of both of those. Now, unfortunately, that's all I can do. And now
I pop both of your skills.
I basically... Sorry?
I pop both of your skills.
That's what they're doing. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's GG's. Actually, won't even bother doing this because nothing else matters. I mean, yeah, it was... These decks were such a fucking mismatch. It was never going to be close anyway, but... Yeah.
Yeah, like the general DD power level for having access to Ragnarok and having access to Kepler, and didn't do anything here because Lamia can't do anything in this version of the deck. But you have Ragnarok, Kepler, Copernicus, and you have the contracts that you need. So regardless of your extra deck monsters, you have consistency out the ass.
Yeah, it's... And
I'm a big...
Beowulf is also just so fucking big, and the issue here is like literally if I get the god line, which I can summon out like I summon out what would even my god hand is both of the magicians. Oh yeah, this shit doesn't work. Whatever, I can't even demonstrate it. But I did like think of like what I can do. I literally like if I have 2 of Pendulum Dragon, I can I have the 8 scale magician, and I have Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon. I summon as scales, and then I have another Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon in my hand, and then I have the tuner, which is Noble Dragon, which is I summon out the Pendulum, summon out the Odd Eyes, I summon out the Noble Dragon using its effect. That way I get a Meteor Burst. I use it from my grave. I summon back out the tuner. I use it with the Meteor Burst, and I make this fucking idiot with Meteor Burst as the first thing that I'm detaching, so then I can summon Meteor Burst to also like get more stuff from the Pendulum Zone. But even all of that is just like I have basically used the literal best hand that my deck can generate and 4 cards to spit out stuff that still doesn't deal with Beowulf, and it's just a big dumb eater that can pop my scales as well. So I feel like this was honestly, I think this might be one of the biggest mismatch that we've had with any of the structure decks, literally in the entire episode, like literally nearing the like Yugi Kaiba stuff and the what was the
Dark Emperor.
Yeah,
I think the Dark Emperor one is by far the worst because that was a graveyard deck fighting against a banished deck, where like it basically meant that I didn't get to play my deck when.
I'm pretty sure you won that though, right?
No, I won the Monarch one.
Oh yeah, I was thinking of that. Yeah,
the Dark Emperor is the previous one where you had like Caius came out in that, but it was mostly just like I'll banish your shit, and I just couldn't get anything going because everything that I go into the graveyard would just get banished instead, which meant that I had no recourse at all. And in a way, this also has the same thing going on, but at least with Beowulf, like the actual risk when if I have my contracts up, if I use my Beowulf there, I lose as well. Like I lose a lot. I lose 2,000 life points before that happens. Even by the way, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Wait, no. They trigger first, and then I activate Beowulf, and then I don't lose life points. Yeah. But like that's the whole point of Beowulf at the end of the day, where it's like I'm gonna pop all Pendulum scales, and I'm gonna pop all my contracts so I don't die, and I'm also gonna gain value from doing that.
I'm
But
also
usually, you wouldn't be in a situation where your opponent's playing Pendulums and you can just pop scales for free.
I'm also now just realizing that why the fuck did we do this when? Because I remember you specifically like recommended that we play these two decks against each other when we had like previously been like, okay, graveyard deck against a banished deck, and now we go like, hey, by the way, the boss monster of this one deck prevents the other deck from functioning. So we basically voluntarily went into, hey, by the way, let's play this Silver Bullet deck that also is just more consistent and more powerful than the other one against the other deck.
I'm pretty sure the main idea for that was just these are the actual decks that were meant to be paired together when these got released.
I don't know what they were.
As I was saying,
I mean, in Japan, yeah. I guess in the West,
yeah, like
they were smart
they
about
got
it and
shafted.
were like, yeah.
No, they were fucking stupid about it because they were like, we're gonna release the Blue Eye support a year early, and then they released the Blue Eye support a year early, and then Pendulums got shafted to the very end of the
Good,
DDs
honestly
got
good.
Pendulums
But yeah,
shafted
like
to the end of the Pendulum era.
But
So
the thing about like Master of Pendulum, at least I guess that way like gets a bit of a chance to shine because it gets released over a year earlier. Because like, well, if you pair these together, stuff like this happens.
the thing also with Master Pendulum versus this one, because this came out half a year after in the OCG, and that was the original like intended release date for this as well, half a year after Master Pendulum, but it got pushed back for like Blue Eye support. Obviously, like, as I mentioned, it's the thing about how Blue Eyes won Worlds. It was largely due to the fact that they got a ton of support that specifically targeted Pendulum strategies, which were really rampant at the time, and that's why Blue Eyes managed to eke out the win. Yeah, like Master Pendulum King has such like absurd support and like reprints for the Pendulum strategy that was dominant at the time, which obviously got shot in the foot. Because holy fuck, that shit was annoying to deal with.
They basically like
So
even the devs were like, you know what, this summoning mechanic might have been a mistake, so they
yeah,
had to
that's why.
artificially shoot it.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
not
like even why
artificially.
now they the current iteration of the Master Rule specifically targets pendulums for link summoning. Like you can't summon pendulums from your extra deck unless you're summoning them to like extra
Yeah,
master zone
which
or link zone.
honestly I think is such a smart way to do it.
Yeah.
Because being able to spit out 5 cards every single turn back is not fun and not healthy.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I think as a comment on like pendulum domination itself and like DDDs, I think this is like the one pendulum deck where you use the pendulum effects the most, or use the pendulum effects the most. Nowadays, there's more that do that, but largely like you're not pendulum summoning unless you're going for something even further beyond. Like you can pendulum summon in this; it's fairly easy, but you can build a deck that just goes like, I set this into scale, and now it's like an extra continuous spell that I have, which was a problem also at the time of Master Rule 3 because you just had extra spell zones. You just played a fucking Ragnarok in your extra, like, your Pendulum Zone, and you're like, I have 5 Spell Trap zones. Yippee! You didn't need to give a fuck about having to expend a slot for those. Nowadays, a lot more hard, like, not a lot more harder, but like, resource intensive in a way, where you actually need to make decisions based off around how many, like, cards do you want to be able to place in your Spell and Trap zone that aren't the Pendulum cards.
but yeah,
But I think the overall power level of both the decks is there's a clear disparity between them. I would even argue that like if I didn't have access to Beowulf here, it doesn't matter. Beowulf is not even that big of a problem at the end of the day. Like you have cards that can swing over like Freed and stuff, but the ways of getting back into those things with this deck is so much better than for you to be able to get back into yours. Right?
yeah, but yeah, like we're gonna keep this brief. I'll be honest, like I'm sorry I was low energy today, but I think this is out of the 108 episode that we've now done is literally the one where I was by far the least excited because there was a clear disparity between the power level of the decks, and there is not a single interesting thing in this deck for me. So that's why I kind of was like, I mean, both of those games, like when I scooped, like it was already over, so it didn't really end up mattering. But I genuinely I had so little interest going into this just because this deck is, there's nothing interesting in this deck. So and like this was never gonna be an actual match.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So my graveyard was one Kepler, one Lamia, one Swamp King, one Gate, and then my banish was Ragnarok, one Night Wolf, and I had a Copernicus and something else in my extra. Copernicus and Kepler, because you popped them. Yeah. I drew Gate, so I draw Gate, I go into something, and I pretty much just win from there, because you don't have anything aboard.
Yeah, I mean,
Like it's
anything I do, it doesn't matter because I'm either not doing anything or I'm expanding my entire hand to get something on the board that if you make Beowulf doesn't matter because it's just bigger than anything that I can ever do. The
yeah.
best thing I can do with that is summon
Oh, there
out
we go. Yeah.
this fucking
Awesome.
piece of shit which doesn't do anything but is a 3k beater. Yippee.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's
So
this is not an interesting deck. I have
no,
nothing to say about this.
I think Odd Eyes as a whole is like decent when Odd Eyes towards the end of the Pendulum era had all the support and you could everything that came out with Odd Eyes.
Yeah, I don't
You
mind
could
it when it gets
play
like not Vortex. Vortex is this.
um
Oh no, is it? Yeah, it is
yeah,
Vortex.
it's Vortex. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. That's
Vortex
what I was
is
thinking
the
about.
like they get a good fusion now, and then you have like I mean Revolution Dragon is more what's this?
Dark Rebellion.
More
Or
modern, but
oh yeah,
there's like is it Dark Rebellion? There's basically there's a uh vanilla level 7 odd ice monster that had a I think decent pendulum effect. But it's like odd ice I think is neat. It's the I would describe it as one of the few pendulum archetypes that I dislike the least. But
yeah,
apart from stuff in extra deck, this deck has one Odd Eyes card. It's Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon.
hmm
And Noble Dragon Magician doesn't function unless you have an Odd Eyes monster.
yeah.
And
I think
the only thing that's here for consistency is 3 copies of Pendulum Call, which I just never saw in these games. So
oh yeah, you
yeah,
don't even have. Wait, no, Summoner's Art doesn't even work on this, right? Wait. Yeah, I think that's Summoner's Art is in here, but you can have like decent targets because you don't have the Metaphysical Dragon. Like if you had a level 7 vanilla like normal monster that has a pendulum effect that you can search with Summoner's Art and you can just summon out and have that be something that like has an allows you to go into decent XYZ plays, that would have already been something. Like that would have already like covered at least the issue of not having good ways of getting into rank 7s or getting decent level 7s because you can't search for chaos. You can't like this card cannot be searched for. You just need to draw into it.
mm-hmm.
And outside of that, you obviously just have you have this guy and you have Odd Eyes. But you're not wasting your fucking Summon Card unless searching from Dragon Pit. You're gonna probably search it with Pendulum Call if anything. Because you're gonna get the scales with that, and then you're gonna use it in your scale and not summon it.
Yeah, and the also
So
issue here is that there are not really great high scales. It's literally Dragon Pit
yeah,
and like because Skull Acrobat, like if you're scaling that shit, like we are down in the fucking dumps at that point. And the only other thing is that's
I'm
a like
Gazer.
playable A scale is Time Gazer. And if you
Right.
have any, basically if you have done anything already, then Time Gazer is also off. So it's just
Yeah.
I don't know. It's this shit is so bound to bricking, and even if you don't brick, the stuff you get out is so underwhelming and so uninteresting. It's just that I don't know. It's there was just nothing for me here that was interesting. But
Yeah.
do you have something else to say before we get out of here?
About the deck that I was playing, or because
About anything in general, because I'm literally like there's nothing for me here. So
yeah, I think overall the power level of Odd Eyes cards is fairly high. They have a lot of consistency again outside of this. Like Odd Eyes as a scale is actually a really good card because it allows you to play your shit and it allows you to pop itself at the end of the turn to search for consistency pieces for the next turn. But that's also like you're expecting there to be a next turn. You're not expecting to die then. Like if, for example, it searches for Pendulum Sorcerer, the Pendulum Sorcerer. It searches that for you, which means that it allows you to immediately essentially go into like you can pop your scales, you can search 2 more scales, you can make monkey board, you can do stuff like that. And you can also search Plush Fire with it, and you can search You can't search Call Crobat, but that's like you can search for that with Pendulum Sorcerer. So like Odd Eyes as a deck is a deck that I don't like playing against when it's at full power, because there was like three or two people who played this shit at locals at one point, and I vehemently resisted having to deal with the fact that I couldn't deal with the boards with anything other than like I'm going to make an absolute zero and I am going to make an acid and I'm going to field nuke you, and you can only react to one of these, even though like interruptions weren't really that common at that point, especially like not in this deck. But then Vortex comes out and Vortex makes it even worse. But that is like I think Vortex is already out.
I am not sure.
I'm gonna double check because I think Vortex
it would be
came out before
crazy
this.
if it was
Yeah.
out and they
Dimension
put
Chaos.
Why would they not put that in and instead put Pendulum Dragon in? Because it's even like it's Odd-Eyes Meteor Burst, Odd-Eyes Absolute, Odd-Eyes Vortex, but instead they put fucking Rune Eyes Pendulum Dragon. I guess it was too good of a card to put in a structure deck.
Vortex came out a month before this deck.
Interesting.
So it's like legitimately a case of they just wanted to not have people to buy the actual booster set and fetch for the card or fish for the card.
Probably.
Well, Odd Eyes Fusion is not in this, right? I think Odd Eyes Fusion also comes out in the same set as Vortex. So.
Yeah, it was just Polymerization and the terrible Pendulum Monster.
I think if we legitimately, if we had thought about this a little bit ahead of time, we could have just been like, yeah, you can have Fusion and you can have Vortex.
I mean, Odd-Eyes gets more stuff in the future, and I'll most likely, when it's actually playable, I'll most likely revisit it, so it's fine anyway. But I don't know. At this point, like, we've always done the structure deck episode this way, and I feel like changing the rules for one of them, if it's not a case of like the, I mean, I guess there could be argument here because there was the Synchron deck that was basically like somebody just went dumpster diving and found a bunch of Yu-Gi-Oh cards and threw that in, and that called it a structure deck. So I guess like this was similar case, but you know, it's whatever. I'm glad to be out of here in record pace because this deck is ass. And
yeah, the dumpster diving analogy for Synchron is like the most apt analogy you could have possibly made.
I mean, yeah, they make junk shits. And it shows like in the card quality. Yeah. They're bad.
I don't know if there's there's no good junk card. Like Junk Synchron was released was okay, but there's like no good like junk card that is still being played, right?
If you don't count the whatever the fucking Dragon Synchron is, that's like literally a Signer Dragon support card.
Debut Dragon
no.
or
I don't remember. It came out I think last year or 2023. It's a tuner that basically just it makes Signer Dragons. I don't remember that card anymore. It's something Synchron and it looks like a baby dragon. That's what I remember of the card.
I had not heard of this card, so
if you see it, I mean, we can look at it, talk about it after. I mean, I guess. Let me look it up because I can immediately. When I check, like I'll find it. Synchron. It's probably it's Synchron. Oh, it's probably like this. It is Revolution Synchron. If you synchro summon a power tool monster or level 7 or level 8 dragon monster, this card in your hand can be used as material. You can also only use this effect once per turn. If you control level 7 or higher synchro monster when this card is in your graveyard, you can send the top card of your deck to graveyard and spell summon this card, and its level becomes 1.
But this is Synchron card. I'm more thinking like because Junk itself is an archetype, right?
Yeah. If
like
you
Junk
that's
Synchron
literally why I said like if you just think like. If you extend it to this, then sure. I don't know the other
Synchrons, like those cards are actually fucking good. Even now, like Jet Synchron is a really good card. Jet Synchron was banned for a while at the end of the day.
Hey, Junk Puppet is a monster born for gimmick puppets, and they just had a bunch of shit banned. So
yeah. I mean, I guess that's good.
Yeah.
Although I guess you can search for this. And if you can't search for this, why would you ever play this?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess in the OCG, Monster Reborn is still at 1. So the idea is that you can play 4 copies of Monster Reborn if you play it.
It is in the TCG too.
No, it's at 3 in the TCG.
By Monster Reborn? No way, right?
Yeah.
Adjust.
It was a... Pretty sure it's... No, it's at 1 way.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, there's no way. That would have been a crazy thing to miss. That they just put Monster Reborn at 3.
Why do I feel like it was 3? What am I thinking of then?
Maybe what at card? Some point. As long as I remember, it's been 1 though.
Oh, I think I'm mixing it up with Reigeki in the sense that, like, I was thinking, wow, that's crazy that they put that at 3.
Oh yeah. That could be.
Yeah. Because both of those cards for me forever has been like, these cards are non-existent. You cannot play these cards. And then at one point they went like, you can play these cards. Now it's like, this card is so shit, you don't even want to play this card.
Okay. Yep, because everything is destruction immune. Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's why people also have been reducing their amounts of, what's it called, Lightning Storm?
Yeah. I think it's semi-limited, but I don't think it's played that much. Especially, I feel like the thing that tanked the cards play the most was when Feather Duster was released, because I think like Feather Duster was still banned when Lightning Storm came out, and it was very expensive. Because like the mode that you would more often than use on Lightning Storm was just blowing up the back row. So it kind of served that purpose, and now it's like, alright, if you go in early, then it can maybe help you break boards, but you would rather have Feather Duster.
Yeah, because you can't even activate it when you happen to draw into it late in the game.
Yeah, it's basically on your first turn when going second is the only time it does something. Which, to be fair, when you're going second is probably the most impactful turn, but still.
I mean, I think it's a card that you probably want to run 2 or more, if it was possible to run 3, if you're going second in like game 2. So you would probably side into him. So it's definitely still like a strong sideboard card.
I mean, I have it same in the like this hypothetical like Galaxy Photon that I have, like the side deck is 3 Nibiru, 3 Sphere Mode, triple Cosmic Cyclone, both copies of Lightning Storm, Feather Duster, and they also match that 2 empty slots that I don't even know what the fuck they would be. I mean, this would look even different now, but still, like when I made this, like that was how I imagined it.
Also, I'm checking right now the limited window for when Duster got limited. It was half a year after Lightning Storm released.
Okay,
which kind of makes me feel like they released this card. This card was giga expensive, and then suddenly they go like, guys, Duster is free. The card you've had in your binder as a common for 20 years, you can play it again.
Yippee!
Yippee! I love Konami. Fuck yeah.
I mean, it's a way to sell products. To be fair, like I think like for quite a while now, like they've been pretty good with their ban lists, and it'll you know, companies want to make money. Look at Wizards of the Coast. You can see there.
I love Final Fantasy Worlds Collide thingamabob.
I love releasing new sets every fucking 2 weeks, basically, at this point, where they just the entirety of EDH at this point. Like, if you want to make good deck that's not CEDH, you just put in every single good staple, and you have a really good deck. It's really interesting and fun. Not.
Just play a card that contains green on it. You play a card that contains like blue on it, and maybe some red, and then you just like splash all the ramp in there.
Just put black in there so you can infinitely recur your shit. Like literally just.
Play Child of Alarm.
Just play
Child of Alarm.
I mean, I guess you can get some stuff. I mean, to be fair, I guess at this point, like White is fucking broken. So
yeah, just play
anything that isn't red, I guess.
Yeah.
Unless you want to play, fuck, I forgot not Ripjaw my car. Fuck.
Tali?
No, it was literally gonna meme about like play groups meme card which say 2/1 haste dinosaur. That like it's a 2 mana 2/1 haste dinosaur, and that's all it is. I don't remember it now. It is irrelevant though.
Shit. That's some shit.
Also, I think they banned Dockside Extortionist, which at least they did that, so that's swag. Fucking dumbass card. Anyways, we're talking
Amazing.
about other card games now. That's what
Before,
playing Pendulum does to me, man. Yeah.
so in Defense of Magic and Wizards of the Coast, the reason why this season, this year of Yu-Gi-Oh! Learning Journey is gonna consist of like 4 years is because Konami is arguably worse at that at this time. Because holy shit, there's a product like every 3 weeks. It's insane.
Mm-hmm. A
I,
lot of that stuff. I mean, to be fair, like I'd argue like complementary products like is a little different than just doing, like structures and or core sets, but
yeah,
still.
I mean core sets. I think the fact that the core sets are also like every 3 months in MTG now, I think that's wild. I
Mm-hmm.
think 4 months at least would be like. I think that's good because that means that you can release a really powerful set and have everything like level out to that power level, and then you release supplemental sets for that, like they used to do with this thing called the block format. They had a set that was like the thing that they based everything off of, and then the themes of the next two sets that were smaller sets built on the themes of the first set.
Then they
Crazy.
then they kill off the most interesting character in the lore, and now the blocks are gone because so everything is fucking dog shit. Because the only interesting thing about MTG lore at this point is the fucking Dragons of Tarkir, and everything else, I'm sleeping, bro.
You mean you're not excited for the red lined steel ball run Akira stuff? What? You mean you're not hyped for the artifact planeswalker? The ether spark? You can't see me, but I'm blinking my eyes separately, rapidly, and moving my jaw in a
I'm
cartoonish
shaking
fashion.
my head, and then they question me when I say that I like Digimon, man.
Fucking
But
hell,
yeah,
man. At
I
least
th-
Digimon is like doing that and being like, guys, we're making a set based off of this shitty Digimon game that you never played, and then it's like, we're making banging cards though, or we're gonna make this set based off of the web novel, and we're gonna make sick new card designs. We haven't played around with like actual tokens or anything other than like Diaboromon. We're making a deck that is a control deck based off of tokens.
yippee.
Fucking cool.
But yeah, we're talking about other card games now. Like I said earlier, sorry for the vibes today. I'm hoping that there's not gonna be a set, at least in a long time, where I mean structure decks are different, obviously, because in a set like there, I can scramble together something interesting there. But a structure deck, it's like if you end up with one of the two structure decks, and
Yeah.
that's what happens. But yeah, like hopefully this won't happen in a long time because I feel like that was definitely the lowest point for me thus far in the series. So hopefully that won't happen again. I do apologize for that. But
I
at
have
least
to say,
you. Sorry?
I have to say, this is like, for me, this is sad in a different way because we're way past the point where DDDs get support every set,
Mm-hmm.
and like I'm not gonna get to play DDDs at full power outside of like very rare instances now, because it's usually gonna be like, here's one DD card, enjoy. Then I'm gonna have to figure out how I play the entire core of DDD, which is like 28 cards
Either
in a set.
either wait for episode 150 or be sad. To be fair,
Gonna be
if it
sad.
makes you feel any better, like I assure you, no matter what the matchup would be, the you would not be able to make as powerful of of plays in comparison to what you're playing up against as you did today. So yeah, but yeah, well, DDD will rear its head at later intervals, but whether we see it or not depends on if Jeexx can scramble together a deck or if I feel like studying the Excel sheets. So we will see that in the future.
It's so hard getting anything out of this later cards. There's like 3 good cards here.
I can't believe this guy is complaining after he rode his Ferrari against a guy in a fucking RC car. And
It's
then it's like, bro, I will not get to do this again, man. And I'm looking at my piece of shit RC car, like, bro, this shit had
it's like
3 wheels.
they gave me a car that goes from 0 to 100 kilometers, 0 to 60 miles for you milehead out there, guys. And instead of having it like be able to actually do that for its like entire existence, they were like, we're gonna remove the tires for the first 50 to 60 miles, kilometers, and then you end up in a situation where for the latter half you get good tires, like really good tires, and they can go really fast, and then they break your fucking shit because they're like, Master Rule 4, eat shit and die. Now suddenly your deck is like completely out of luck. You can't do shit.
When does
Like
Gilgamesh
no.
come out? Does he come out with other
Uh,
DD stuff? Because I know that's really fucking good.
that's like the next part where I would say that this deck, like for Master Rule 4, because it's not even like you don't care about the pendulum summoning. You just care about the fact that you can't make 2020. Gilgamesh is 2020.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So you only care about the fact that you need to have slots, and you can't summon shit without the slots during Master Rule 4. Luckily, we're not playing that. Obviously, like we're actually the intention is to play regular Master Rule 4 for a while into Link Air, right?
Yeah, we'll play it for
Which
a what's gonna be in the series a few months, but like probably 10-ish episodes. I'm not actually sure if we have talked about that before. I mean, we haven't definitely said the specific episode, but we are already intending, like, when we hit the Link era, we will play according to Master Rule 4, but that's the one time when we will actually stray from the how the stuff actually worked, and we will basically start playing according to Master Rule 5 earlier than it happened in the TCG.
yeah,
Probably
most
around a year earlier when it comes to like product releases, so you can count it
yeah.
from there if you feel like it. But yeah, we're gonna do that. So like basically, because it is still like important to showcase how Master Rule 4 changed things, but we don't know. Just want to be summoning blue border cards for a year.
It's like considering that the best decks at summoning blue border cards for the first year were not even from like the Link era. Yeah, yeah, 100% don't want to be sitting. I guess I mean Gokis are fine, and then there's also I won't get ahead of myself.
Yeah. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it, but yeah, Link era is still a couple months away for us. Actually, I think 2 months exactly for our series, which is still pretty soon.
Wait,
And honestly, I might be preaching to the choir here, but anything to get me out of fucking Pendulum era. Like, there have been archetypes here that I think are neat, but like still, Pendulum era is still definitely like the big sleep era for me, because I don't like the summoning mechanic. I don't like it how it was initially. I don't like it in the like Link era. I don't like
yeah,
pendulums. I
I'm still like
go for it.
I'm still like I hate Pepe. Pepe is just like absolutely horrendous to play against. I think Odd Eyes is annoying to play against, and I think Magispectors are really awful to play against, especially with Kieran. And then like any deck that could abuse Apex Avian, for example, was awful. But I think like the way that DDDs and Mellifos utilize the mechanic was interesting enough that I have fondness towards these two specific archetypes for pendulums.
Mm-hmm.
And like I think for DDDs, using pendulums as essentially like a way of like it's a limitation as well. Like for example, you can't just fuse a card on board and have it go to the graveyard. Like you need to actually think about which cards in your hand or which cards on your board, hand, and graveyard like will be going there when you fuse, for example, from board or when you fuse from your hand. The reason why, for example, sent the Copernicus to the graveyard from my hand instead of normal summoning it at any point was specifically because I was like, I cannot get this card to go into the graveyard to be used as material for King of the Swamp or for special summoning it unless I use it as like material now.
Mm-hmm.
And playing around that as a limitation is cool.
That's fair.
And of course, like Kepler as well. Kepler is a level 1, and it's never gonna go to the graveyard, but you're gonna be wanting to summon it back. Like you want to be able to use Kepler more than once, but you cannot pendulum summon it because it's a level 1. So having it be a card that you send to the extra deck and then you use other cards to maybe fetch it back means that you have to build your deck in a way where you can actually end up in the situation. Like I had Lilith for that, for example, in this.
Funny you say that, like you can pendulum summon it because it's a level of 1, but isn't the like DDD Divine Zero King, Isn't it the literally only Pendulum card in... At least it's the only Pendulum card in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! That I know that literally has a Pendulum scale of 0.
Yeah, this card came out like ages after. So
Yeah, I think it's like
mainly
20 or 21. It's relatively modern support, which now when I'm looking at it, I'm realizing like, DDS got in a surprisingly high amount of support in the modern era, where I I basically thought that there was just a very forgotten archetype, but
no, DD is a very popular archetype. Generally, this is a really popular archetype overall.
I mean, I've seen the Excel memes, and the aesthetic and I guess lore in a way is pretty interesting. So I'm not surprised.
I think we talked about this, but this is essentially a fate archetype.
Yeah, we definitely talked about it like 2 or 3 weeks ago. It was very recently.
Yeah, but apparently there's a bunch more that have zeros. I didn't realize that. That's okay. Crazy.
I see.
There's like
this
almost
literally the only one that I like knew from the top of my head. And if you ask me, like, all right, okay, I will. If it wasn't on my screen, I would not have been able to tell you it's the Divine Zero King, but I would have told you that it is the Go DDD card, because I remember when initially it was revealed, and I saw the name. I was like, that has to be a mistranslation, but guess not.
Yeah, there's a bunch of cards like this. Like, this is the actual guy that plays DDDs, right? That's right. He's on the cover of the structure deck, for example.
Gotcha.
They just made him into a card. Like, they did that for a bunch of cards. I think Yuya has one for Performer Pals as well, where it's like just his face. Well, not just his face, but just his hair. Same with like the what's the archetype called again? Bujins. Bujins being like Yu-Gi-Oh characters, which I didn't realize until fairly recently. Which made me feel quite fucking stupid.
I mean, I don't know much lore. I know that that's also one thing actually, like, why Link Era is neat for me, because the World Legacy, Magnite, all of that shit, the Orchid stuff, like, I think still is like my favorite piece of Yu-Gi-Oh lore. So getting to the era is gonna be neat for other reasons.
I'm very excited for you to be reciting the lore for all of the decks.
I don't think I'm gonna be doing that.
There's just videos for that, you know. You can just watch those. And,
I've seen those videos. That's why I know the lore. And if somebody else is interested, they can go watch the lore. I'm not the Vati video of Yu-Gi-Oh or anything else. If you want lore, you're in the wrong place.
You could definitely be the Vati video of Yu-Gi-Oh.
I could. If I had a pair of tits and didn't have a dick, then I could also be very different. But that's not the reality that we're living here. So, you know. Yeah. Shoulda, woulda, coulda. No.
Is that PC? Is that PC? Are we good to say that?
Why would it not be? Anyways, before we get too deep into any sort of bigotry, we're gonna get out of here. We've been rambling for most of this episode anyway. Like I said, this episode sucks. If you skip to the end, don't go and watch it. It's dog shit. Feel free to skip this episode, and maybe next week will be better. At least it'll have... Actually, I don't know. I guess we could check what it is. I don't feel safe checking here, though, because I might have a shell, and I don't want to show any spoilers. Oh, yeah, it's Raging Tempest next time. So, we might see... I might see Pendulum stuff. We might not see Pendulum stuff, but we're definitely going to see some furries run amok. So, yeah. If that sounds like it strikes your fancy, then we will see you here next week. Thank you for watching today, and have a great starting week. I was gonna say rest of your week, because we're recording this on Monday, but it's gonna go... Actually, no. Yes, have a great rest of your week, because I know already that I'm traveling over the weekend, so this is going up on Monday. So yeah, you know what? Have a great rest of your week, and we will see you back here next week. Peace.